We're going to get it going here, starting off with our first guest of the evening. I got Jill Baxter on the pod. Welcome to Bring the Juice. Boogity, boogity, boogity. Let's go racing. All right, all right, all right. We love to see it.
First we gonna rock, then we gonna fold, then we let it pop, don't let it go.
Shout out to everyone here. I feel like I'm at like my first stand-up comedy event, my first like live concert, and we're about to be the Rolling Stones, but we're not quite yet. But we're almost there. Go get yourself a $1 Coors Light. Jill Baxter on the pod. Jill, you wear so many hats. One of them being a sports agent, one of them being the wife to one of the Fresno State football coaches, John Baxter.
Yes.
A lot of other things going on. Talk to me. Let's start off with a little Fresno State action. I think everybody wants to talk about it. Conference realignment, the Dogs, how they're going to be this year. You know more than we do. What do you got for me, Jill?
Well, let's talk about conference realignment. Is that okay, or you want to talk about
Let's go.
this?
Conference realignment.
Conference realignment is a very, very convoluted issue right now, because when Oklahoma and Texas left, truthfully, the Pac-12 was asked to merge with the Big 12, and there should have been 20 teams. And you know what? That commissioner said no.
So the Pac-12...
Could have been the Pac-20 right now.
Somebody in the higher-ups just didn't...
No, the commissioner.
The straight-up commissioner. It came down to one person.
But then each school also votes, right? They say yes or no. And they decided not to do that. Now look where we are now. What kind of a mistake was that? That was a huge error. And what happened was the Big 12 commissioner, when Oklahoma and Texas left, became very aggressive and started to get more teams to add to their conference to make their conference stronger. And then what happened was, now what happened with all the stuff with the Pac-12 is the Pac-12 really did want to stick together. Truthfully, the ADs and the Pac-12 wanted to stick together. USC and UCLA had already left. That is true.
Right.
Okay? But what happened is, yes, Colorado left, but that didn't really impact them the way you think that it would, because that TV market is not as big as the, San Francisco market, so to speak.
They want to have a West Coast timestamp.
So there was a deal ready to, all the Pac-12 teams were going to sign their rights back to the Pac-12 and go ahead and go with the Apple deal. And there was about $21 million guaranteed, and then another $5 million with the subscriptions. So each team would have been guaranteed about $25 million. Oregon, Washington, just before the vote, called the other presidents. And you got to know, this is going on at the presidential level. This isn't happening at the AD level. The presidents then called some of the other presidents and said, hey, we are talking to the Big Ten.
Right.
Okay? And that's when it all fell apart. And they decided to go to the Big Ten. Then the other teams, other schools, who honestly wanted to stay loyal to the Pac-12, realized...
Saw the writing on the wall.
They saw the writing on the wall. They were already probably in talks with the Big 12, as were, schools like Fresno State and San Diego State. Everybody was trying to get in the Big 12, right? And then what happened was, once that happened that Friday and they did not assign their rights, and Oregon and Washington go to Big 10, they all just bailed. So then you had Utah and Arizona State go to the Big 12.
Do you think a school like Arizona State weren't ever anticipating leaving, but they saw just like, hey, everybody's getting out, we better follow?
I know Utah didn't want to leave because they wanted to be loyal to the Pac-12.
Right.
I mean, the AD there was at UCLA and he was at Arizona. He's a Pac-12 guy. He didn't want to leave. So, and Arizona State are not going to go and leave without the other, because they're governed by the same board. Now in California, that's not how their board voted when UCLA decided to leave. I was surprised they allowed that when Cal and UCLA left. But now what should we do next? What if I was in charge, which I'm not, but if I was, I would be very aggressive right now if I was the Pac-12, and I would be rebuilding the Pac-12, and I'd be trying to get every single West Coast team that's left, which is all of the Mountain West teams,
right,
and the best teams that you can get, and form another Pac-20 or, Pac-15.
You're saying consume them all.
Consume them all, use the Pac-12 brand, and go after the Apple deal again. That's what I would do. I'm not the commissioner, but that's
Do you
what,
think it's one of
that's
those
what
things,
I would
though,
do.
now where, okay, there's all this conference realignment BS going on, and I think the Big 12 kind of saw a little bit of, there's rumors of wanting to create a super conference where whoever has the most teams is going to get to keep that name down the line. I think the SEC bringing a couple guys in started making that ball roll a little bit. It's always going to be about the money. But
All about money.
But if it's going to go from there's 5 Power 5 conferences to now, let's say Pac-12's out to 4, it's going to come down to, yes, who has the best competition, but as well as who has the most teams is going to become a factor, no?
Of course, the most teams, but you got to
Right.
understand, you got to share the money, okay? So the 3 Pac-12 teams that went into the Big 12 at the end, they only got a half a share. Colorado got a full share because they used to be in the Big 12.
Really?
Yeah, so you got to understand that. And I know USC and UCLA, I think they got a full share. I think maybe or maybe not. But then you got, I don't know what Oregon and Washington got. Like, what did they get to entice them to go to the Big 10? My guess, it was more than, what, 21 million, see?
It was a bidding war at that point.
It was more money. Even
Yeah.
even half a share was more money than the 21 million you were going to get from Apple, and then the 5 million, but like for Fresno State where you only get 5 million,
Right.
okay, well, don't we, so I would be pushing, like I said, if I was in charge, that's what I would be doing. That's what we need to do as a conference.
So if you're the Mountain West right now, in your football experience and being in the agent game, should the Mountain West consume the leftover Pac-12 teams, or should all the Mountain West go to the Pac-12?
I think they should go to the Pac-12, rebrand under the Pac-12 name. That's a bigger name. And then maybe they can get back in stay in the Power 5. See, that's another thing.
That's what I'm
the
saying.
Power 5 has to be renegotiated, which is another $60 million. If that goes away for the Pac-12, that's a lot of money. So
and that'd be so
when-
degrading, too, I feel like, for like Stanford,
Yes.
Oregon State, Washington
But
State.
so that's why I think, and I've read that is what they're trying to do.
Is bring everyone back.
Meaning the Pac-12 is trying to get their get their whole conference back.
Yeah.
And the only
they
way
need
to
to get
do
their
that,
shit together.
the only way to do that is to get a strong league and then try to buy back the guys that left, the teams that left. I mean, that's what I would try to do too, because I think what they're going to find with the minor sports having to travel, it's really expensive. And those student athletes are traveling commercially. They're not traveling, they aren't getting a charter flight like the football teams, and that's going to impact them. That's tiring.
Oh, my God. It kicks your butt getting on the charter and going across the country. We play Hawaii every year.
Yeah.
Getting on a flight to Hawaii, it changes the whole game, first of all. It's hard to play on the island for a lot of
Yes.
reasons. Time change, the distractions of being on the beach, all that. But that flight, 5 hours, and we're in Fresno. Like,
I know. I was just there.
there's teams going all over the place. And it's not just weekend to weekend. We said it on the pod last week with Kenny Wiggins. If you're UCLA and you got back-to-back away games where you're playing Rutgers, far East Coast, and then
Yeah.
the next game you're playing Maryland, far East Coast, teams are going to start staying out there because it's cheaper probably. But that's also, as a college kid missing 2 weeks of school, that kind of kicks your ass a little bit.
Yeah, but what about like basketball and baseball? And you play
That's
a
what I'm
lot. You
saying.
play a lot of games.
We even not to degrade any sports, but there's certain sports where women's tennis might have to go travel all that way. They're going to be having a totally different experience. They're going to have
Yeah.
4 connecting flights. It's going to be a shit
Yeah.
show.
Or what happens if a flight
It's delayed
gets
and
delayed
you miss all of a sudden
and you miss a
you
competition?
miss a competition. Damn.
Yeah, there's not a lot. So I think it's going to cost those teams a lot more money because of the travel. And then maybe what we'll see is it'll all come back to us. But I think the Pac-12 needs to be aggressive right now and get all of our really strong teams on the West Coast and not leave anybody behind. See, I didn't like that they left people behind.
Well, if we were to take everybody from the Mountain West to the Pac-12, we had to eliminate our weakest links. Who do we eliminate?
I wouldn't do that. Then you're doing
You'd
the
say
same thing
all or nothing?
I'd say, well, that's not what will happen.
Yeah.
But I
It's
think,
survival of the fittest out there.
of course, it's all about money.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's going to be tough.
Do you think that the Apple TV deal is the right deal? Because I don't see it like sports bars saying, hey, I'm going to go buy Apple TV right now just to watch the Pac-12.
I have everything at my house. I have Apple TV. I've
Damn.
got YouTube. I've got
HBO?
I've got HBO. I got everything.
Hulu?
I got Hulu. I got everything.
Peacock?
Yes, I have everything.
You got Peacock?
Streaming is where it is. I have everything.
Agent Jill Baxter here, guys. Sports agent. Been in the football game, been in the sports game for a long time. She does a lot of ins on this whole conference realignment thing in Fresno State in particular. Jill, I want to transition a little bit in your sports agent game. Mm-hmm. Who would you say is one of your prized possessions in your time of being a sports agent? What athlete?
It's actually not an athlete.
Oh.
It's actually an athletics director.
Okay.
She just retired from Penn State. She was the
AD at Penn State.
She was the AD at Cal. She was the AD at Tulane. And right now she's not the interim, but she's the AD overseeing everything at USC to hire the new AD there because that AD got, kicked to the curb. But, yeah, no, she's probably, I've probably represented her for almost 25 years. I met her when I was teaching law at Tulane, and my husband was coaching there. And then we left, and I've been doing her contracts and everything ever since.
What do you look for something or some sort of traits when an athlete is approaching you, or do you go after athletes if they have certain traits? Is there good clients versus bad clients?
Sure, but most of my clients have been recommended to me. I find when I get in the most trouble is if I don't get a recommendation before usually they call me,
right.
Honestly, and then I do a little vetting, and then I decide whether we align. And then if we align, then, because my values are protection, advocacy, and trust. So if they don't value somebody who wants to protect them and be their advocate and their trusted advisor, then it's not going to work.
Right.
Right. So most of my clients have been recommendations by somebody, either a coach or in the athletic director's case, we happened to be on the same campus all the time. We were friends.
I want to give a quick little snippet of the life of being a wife to a professional football coach.
Yeah. So
your husband, John Baxter,
yes.
Tell me about his coaching career. I know you guys had a good tier in New England with Bill Belichick.
We weren't with Bill. No. Pat was. Pat Hill was.
Pat was.
But not with. He has a.
You were before him.
No, before here. We were at USC. Before that, we were Michigan. Then we were back at USC. We were at Fresno State. We were at Tulane. We were at Maryland, University of Arizona. So John and I have been at University of Arizona, Maryland, Tulane, Fresno State, USC, Michigan, back to USC, and now we're back at Fresno.
How's the lifestyle? I know that right now the team's in fall camp, which means you start at 4 in the morning, you get done at midnight. Do you just say, "Hey, I'll see you in January," or what?
Peace out. I'll be going on a lot of trips.
Is that just how it is
That's
now?
how I am, but see, our kids are grown up.
Got it.
Our kids are grown up. So when my kids were little, I'm running them around, and I'm running, my sports law business, our academic game plan company, and, I was pretty busy. Now I'm busy,
Yeah.
but I take my computer and I can work anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
So a lot of times I do a lot of trips. I might be going to see a client's game.
Sure.
Because I have a lot of coaches too, a lot of football coaches. I have athletic directors, I have media, and I have professional athletes. So I have all of those people. So I travel a lot. And then, how it is that from about 6 a.m. to 10 p.m., you're just, you're on your own. But that's fine. I mean, it's actually a very good life, right?
Not bad. Jill, before I wrap it up, what's your prediction this year for Fresno State football's record?
Well,
Season prediction.
We're going to win every game.
12-0?
Yeah.
Mountain West champs?
Yes, of course.
There you go. Ladies and gentlemen, Jill Baxter, sports agent, sports superstar. Next guest coming up, Ryan Sullivan, Fresno State baseball. Go enjoy yourself a $1 Coors Light. Get a sandwich here at DERVO'S Deli. Appreciate you coming out. We'll be back in a minute because I need a fresh beer. All right, y'all. Interview number 2 on the day. First of all, thanks for coming out, checking out DERVO'S Deli, checking out Bring the Juice. $1 Coors Lights is a hell of a deal on an early Friday evening. Couldn't be more happy with it. I'm joined right now by former Bulldog baseball player Ryan Sullivan. Sully, thanks for coming on. Thanks for having DERVO'S Deli with me. Enjoying some Coors Lights. We just heard Jill Baxter talk about some conference realignment, the ins and outs of being a sports agent, a little of her perspective on the athletic industry. You played baseball here at Fresno State. With all the stuff that's going on right now, you have your perspective. Let's start out. The perspective of just playing baseball at Fresno State. We always talking about football. We're talking about basketball here and there. Baseball won in Natty. They don't get the respect they deserve necessarily. Talk to me about playing baseball at Fresno State. What's that experience like?
Yeah, definitely. I will say, I don't know if it's the respect that we deserve. I mean, we do get respect.
It's about respect.
That's right. The Central Valley in general, though, I grew up in the Sacramento area, so coming down here, the Central Valley area loves baseball. I mean, they live for baseball. I mean, that Clovis Unified School District is unbelievable, the baseball that they produce. So there is the lineage it's deep. It's really deep in the valley with baseball. So it's not necessarily respecting. It's just college baseball it's as you well know, college sports operate on a dollar sign, just like everything else. And unless you're the football program or you're a high-profile basketball program, your sport is going to operate at a loss. That's just the innate part of being in collegiate athletics. So that being said, college baseball in general, it's growing. You're starting to see more and more popularity in the game. So ESPN, for example, they started the SEC network and, Longhorn Network, ACC network. You're starting to see televised college baseball games, which Paul could attest to this. You have never seen that before up until about 5 years ago. So that's big. It's growing the game. But just innately being a mid-major, again, going back to the respect thing, it's just when we won the national championship in 2008, it really put us on the map of the national scale. We had numerous conference championships in a row. I believe it was from 2005 to about 2012. We won about 7 or 8 straight conference titles, went to 7 or 8 straight regionals, won the national championship within that stretch. So playing for Fresno State it's actually a big deal. Like I don't know if people realize, but being a Bulldog baseball player, it's a big deal. We're highly touted throughout the country. To put it lightly, I think we've been playing baseball at Fresno State as a university since like 1910, 1905, something like that. What is it, 21?
Before the Depression?
1921.
Oh, it's around the Depression.
So, 1921. And before Bates retired and we just hired Ryan Overland, so it was 3 head coaches. It was Pete Biden, Bob Bennett, and Mike Batesel, and now the 4th being Ryan Overland. So to have 4 head coaches in almost 100 years is unheard
That's crazy.
of, right? So, playing for this university and being a part of Fresno State baseball, it's special. It's something that you don't really see in, again, other mid-majors within baseball programs. So, again, the respect is definitely there, but it was also it's something that was earned throughout, again, almost 100 years of playing baseball at Fresno State.
You brought up the 2008 national championship, which is absolutely awesome. Underdog to underdog. If you were within the valley, I was, 11 years old when that happened.
Yeah.
Badass. I remember going to Walmart. We didn't even really shop at Walmart that much, but we got with the shirt, you know?
Yeah.
And it was huge for the Valley. I wish I was in college when that happened. I can only imagine.
Oh, I can only imagine, man.
Not even being a football player at the time, like just a dude.
Yeah.
No affiliation. People would be going ape shit over that.
Oh, I can only imagine.
How long do you think that, and I know you had success at your time at Fresno State, and obviously, like Tom Brady says, what's your favorite ring? The next one. How long does that 2008 national championship hold the weight it does or did 2009, 2010, 2011? And when it's 2038, if we haven't had a top 10 baseball program in a long time, are we going to start diluting our success, you think? Or how?
No,
it's a hot
not,
take.
Yeah, not necessarily. Again, you got to look at part of the history of college baseball and how many programs have actually won national championships, and then you go back and you look at how many programs have won multiple, right? It's not dissimilar to football in that aspect of it gets slimmer and slimmer and slimmer.
Right.
So football, we can talk about, who are the top programs historically, your Bamas, your Georgias, then you get kind of, Ohio State, then you kind of get into that next tier, Michigan, Notre Dame, Texas, Oklahoma, et cetera, et cetera. You go down the list, right? You can do the same thing in college baseball. And a national championship for a school like Fresno State is going to last a long time.
Right.
It is going to hold weight for a long time.
There is no timestamp necessarily.
Not necessarily. And in baseball, another good comp for us would be Cal State Fullerton and Cal State Long Beach. So us three programs, if you take a look at our success across the country, historically, no other mid-majors really come in close. Those three schools have dominated college baseball for being a mid-major. And being a mid-major, winning a national championship, it means a lot. Right. So to put it in perspective, our goal year in, year out was always, number one, let's win the regular season conference title so that we have put ourselves in the best position to get into the conference tournament and go win the conference tournament to get to a regional. That was always our primary goal. Once we got in a regional, now it's, hey, we're playing great baseball, let's see what we can do. Because nobody expects us to win regionals. So in 2019, the best team that I was a part of at State, I was a part of 2 conference championship winning teams, but in 2019, we won over 40 games. We were nationally ranked. And after we absolutely dominated our conference regular season, we go into our conference tournament, and we go 3-0 and dominate the Mountain West in the Mountain West tournament. And the NCAA still gave us a 3 seed, not even a 2 seed in the regional. We did not expect to host a regional, but again, going into the regional as a top 25 team, they gave us a 3 seed, right? So that being said, there's a certain level of expectation that, hey, great season, great job. We don't expect you to necessarily do anything when you get to the postseason. That being said, we've proven to do stuff in the postseason. We've proven to get to a super regional. You know, we kind of blew it, to be completely fair, and we dropped 2 in a row to Stanford to lose that regional after going 2-0. But that being said, you know, nobody expected us to really be in the position that we were in. Yeah. You know, we beat Stanford. We went 2-0 in the regional. You know, we dropped 2 to lose it, but again, nobody gives us that. You know, nobody gave us that credit going in. So they expect us to get to regionals, but once you get to the regional, it's kind of like a cherry on top situation. So that national championship, that team that got there and did that and won, that's going to hold a lot of weight for a long time, because even though we are a highly respected program, you have your select group of schools that are expected to win national championships.
Right.
So
all this leveling up that we talked about earlier with Jill Baxter on the conference realignment, we just said the football perspective. I mentioned how it affects other sports as well. You look at a team like UCLA that's going into the Big Ten, and now they're playing maybe a series, Rutgers, Maryland, Penn State. Now, me and you both know as student athletes, it's not the easiest lifestyle being on the road. The physical and mental toll is its own thing.
Right.
But being a student athlete where you got to have that balance, and you have a disadvantage during season because of the traveling. I know football, we're there and back, and we got the chartered planes and,
right.
and all that stuff. You guys, I mean, there's a situation where you could be gone 2 weeks, 3 weeks potentially if you really had to, right?
Yeah, because the difference is we play series, right? Especially when we get into conference plays, we're playing a 3-game set. It's a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and we travel on Thursdays and we show up to the destination and we practice on Thursday evening. So it's a 4-day deal. The biggest thing I would say is with all this realignment, every conference needs to just schedule strategically.
Yeah, more than ever, huh?
More than ever. And that's the biggest. I think that basketball is going to be a challenge because they play 2 games a week,
it's
approximately
weird.
2, 3, but they don't play back-to-backs in college basketball. So if they go play on a Monday, they got to come back and play on a Wednesday or a Thursday, and then they got to go play on a Saturday. So they're not playing back-to-back, so the travel can get pretty extensive there of bouncing back and forth. So for a team to go from California to Rutgers to Maryland, et cetera, that seems to be a challenge. For baseball, they just need to be super strategic. So you can't schedule back-to-back weekends where they're going to New Jersey to play Rutgers and then playing Maryland, right? So they just need to be strategic about it. I will say, baseball, we travel probably more than any other sport. And the biggest thing it's going to affect is academics. It's unfortunate that the conferences, I know it operates on the dollar sign, but
of course.
Ultimately, college sports is still college sports, and you still got to go to class and do something, right? You still got to pass.
You got to pass something.
I mean,
you got to be eligible.
And that's what we're seeing with this transfer portal is I saw a stat the other day that in college basketball, I can't remember the exact number of transfers, but there's approximately 45% of those transfers that are ineligible this year, and nobody really wants to talk about why. Well, I can guess why. It's because they're not eligible academically because they haven't earned enough credits towards a degree from said university, and then they transfer it. So it becomes a problem with the NCAA eligibility rules that they have in place. So, again, when you're looking at the travel and you're looking at this conference realignment, if kids start suffering in the classroom because of the travel, it's going to become a problem because then some of your best players might not be able to play next weekend. Right. Then you start losing games. So it definitely presents a challenge. There is remedies to that challenge. We had study hall when we traveled. We had mandatory study hall. It was an hour every day when we were on the road except for Sunday because Sundays were 1 o'clock starts. So we would wake up, eat breakfast as a team, and then go to the field and then leave after that. So, but Thursday, Friday, Saturday, we had an hour mandatory study hall. So, again, it's just that's not an NCAA thing. That was just our program doing what we did. And every year I was there, we had a 3.0 higher GPA on average. So
wow,
that was something that our head coach took took a lot of pride in, and so did we as a team. So not every school is like that. The average GPA for a collegiate baseball team is like 2.6. So if that's the average without all this travel, what happens, right? I mean, again, you start getting into that NCAA eligibility issue.
Bunch of doctors.
Well, I don't know about that, but it's called communication majors, brother.
Right. So as a whole then, where would you like to see Fresno State go conference-wise?
It's a great question. If you asked me that prior to the realignment, I would have said the Pac, right?
Of course. That has always been the goal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's get a better stadium. Let's get better facilities.
Yeah.
Have our programs rise. Get better deals. Join the Pac. That was always part of the deal.
Right.
Now it's like, who knows?
Now it's a challenge. I don't know really how to answer that because, again, talking about should we join with? I think Stanford, personally, I think they're going to go independent. I think it makes the most sense for them.
Become a Notre Dame?
Correct.
Yeah.
So if you look at the rest of that field, you have O-State, you have Cal, and you have Wazoo. So looking at those three schools, what do they really bring in terms of juice?
Well said.
If you ask me, not much. Oregon State, phenomenal baseball program. They've dominated the landscape of college baseball for 20 years.
I'd say they're a competitive football program right now.
Last year.
Rowdy. They just got got a quarterback from Clemson who at one point was a Heisman candidate.
Well, before the season started.
Just saying.
No, I get you.
More than me or you ever were.
That's true. No, and I get that. But again, last year they had a great year. They won 10 games. Prior to that, we haven't heard anything since the Rogers twins, right? So
it's been a minute.
It's been a while. Their basketball program is they had a run in 2020 in that March Madness where, or I guess it was 2021. They were kind of the darling of the tournament, but ultimately they're kind of a non-existent basketball program. I don't know enough about the other sports within the athletic department, but again, not bringing a ton of juice. If you look at Wazoo, not bringing a ton of juice across the board. And then if you look at Cal, they haven't been good since 2004, 2005, or whatever the case was. Last time Tedford was there.
I can't stand Cal.
Fair enough. And their basketball program, baseball program. And again, I know I'm speaking biasly to kind of the bigger three programs, and I know there's a lot more.
It's biased, but at the same time, let's cut the shit. That's what we're talking about here.
Fair enough. So, you look at that, and it's like, yeah, could we join their conference, and they would fit with us, San Diego State, Boise State,
throw in a
Nevada,
UNLV,
UNLV, New Mexico, sure. But again, I think the more that we succeed with football, baseball, basketball across the board, the more that we should be considered to be a more prestigious conference. But with that realignment, it does kind of ruin that. So I think, fitting with them works. But again, there's a dollar sign that they've had over the last however many years of being in the Pac.
Right.
And I think they probably do not want to join our schools.
Yeah.
So
part of the deal.
It is.
Part of the deal. Ladies and gentlemen, Ryan Sullivan, Fresno State Baseball. Appreciate him coming out. Thanks for coming to DERVO'S Deli. We got a next interview coming in hot next. I need another beer, so we're going to take a quick 2-minute break. Be back at it in a sec. All righty. All right. We are back at it with the voice of Fresno State Athletics Paul Leffler. Paul, great to see you. Last night was the Bulldog kickoff dinner, the fundraiser. You looked great and sounded better. Let's, real quick, what did you think of that event last night? I think the Dogs are fired up for the upcoming football season. The momentum's high, the juice is in the air.
There's juice everywhere right now.
Yeah.
I didn't know juice was on the menu at DERVO'S. I just had to ask
Juice
the owner
is on
about
the
that.
menu at DERVO'S.
I guess it is.
We actually have a lot of big things coming up. If you ever seen the movie Happy Gilmore, be on the lookout. We've got some great promos coming up. That's all I'm going to say.
Uh-oh.
Yes.
That was a great event last night. Our Valley is such a special place, and last night was just a reminder that the Bulldog family is really big and really invested. I mean, when you see Bulldog legends from the last 50 years worth of teams, I mean, like, even Steven Spock was there, caught one of the biggest touchdowns in Fresno State history, right?
Hey, Steven Spock, can you raise your hand
there
real quick?
he is.
Give this guy a round of applause. Wow.
Were you born yet in 2004 when he caught that touchdown against Virginia?
I was 8 years old. 8 years old, something like that. God.
That was a special moment, and there's so many of those, right? Just being in that stadium last night, you're thinking this is exactly where Fresno State scored 15 points in 13 seconds to stun San Diego State, to basically do the impossible and make me say words I never thought I'd say on a football broadcast.
I was there. That was a special win. That was a special win, though,
Absolutely.
Paul. One of the best finishes I've seen, probably most dramatic it was 15 seconds exactly.
13 seconds.
13 seconds.
15 points in 13 seconds. Touchdown, 2-point, onside, touchdown, extra point, interception. Boom, game over.
Last year-
You'll never see that sequence again.
Last year, actually, the next week of practice, that Monday, I interviewed Zane Pope right there on that couch, and we talked
Hey.
about it.
Zane Pope was in DERVO'S, huh?
Oh, Zane Pope is a big DERVO'S guy. Huge DERVO'S guy. He likes the Game Changer, which I recommend everybody tries the Game Changer.
Well, he was the game changer because if he doesn't recover that onside kick, Fresno State doesn't win a Mountain West championship, period.
Period.
I mean, that game changed everything last year, and now Fresno State's got the third longest win streak in the country.
How about that?
Trying to make it 10 at Purdue. I mean, momentum is a powerful thing, Frank.
Very powerful thing. Got to roll with it, strike with the iron sight, keep pounding. You just said Purdue, September 2nd. Football season is right around the corner. The tailgates are back. The juice is high. The Valley is back to being back in balance where everybody is happy and ready to sweat their butt off in Valley Children's Stadium to go watch the Dogs attack. How excited are you personally? Because I'm fired up. Fire me up, Paul. Come on now.
Where's Cam when you need him, right? Last night at the dinner, it was great having Cam Worrell there to say, let's go, right?
Hey, we needed a little bit of that.
He's good at that, and this Valley's good at that. But, you know, Coach Tedford, one thing I love about him, could he fire up the team? Yeah. Does he? Yeah. But what makes him great is how steady he is. And that team, there's no way, I'm telling you, there's no way that team goes from 1-4 to 10-4, which no one in the history of college football had ever done without Coach Tedford and his staff being who they are, having the experience they have, the perspective they have, and the investment in this community that they have. Because they knew the season wasn't over, and they knew the only way to win 9 straight was to get down to the microscopic level and not look at it as 9 straight. Look at it one play. And you hear that cliche over and over again, but I don't think I've ever seen any team master that as well as that team did last year, and Coach Tedford deserves all the credit in the world. So could he be the rah-rah guy? Yeah, but he knows to have consistent success over time, you need more substance than just the screaming and yelling and getting people amped up, you know? You need more than just juice,
You need
Frank.
more than just juice. He's cool, calm, and collected. I actually, if somebody goes back, I tweeted as soon as they lost that game, I said, don't be surprised when Fresno State wins 10 games and wins the Mountain West in their bowl game.
Wow.
Tweeted it. Spoken to this because of this. I know we had our injuries and there was a momentum shift. Things went a certain way. I know how Jeff Tedford operates. And like you said, he was not going to let the ship sink like that.
No.
No. Adversity strikes, good. Get punched in the face, good. Yeah?
And how much better is this team equipped to handle any adversity that comes its way this year?
Right.
Because last year they did it, right? They saw it. They stared at, you know, some of the worst things that could have happened to them in the face. Their quarterback got his leg broken at USC.
Yeah.
They lost their best player on defense the same game. That's enough to crush a lot of teams.
It knocks the wind out of you, for sure.
But not them, because of what they'd been through. I would say, too, it's not a small detail what so many of those players went through during COVID. right? And Coach DeBoer did such a phenomenal job during that time to hand the keys back to Coach Tedford with a pretty well-oiled machine. But that perspective, that resilience, just that focus, I think, has served this program well. And you know what I can't wait for?
What's that?
I know your brother plays offense. I can't wait to see this defense. Because the second half of last year, Fresno State had one of the best defenses in the country. So many of those guys are back. Now they get the scheme. They're going to play that much faster and with that much more swagger. We might see some shutouts this year.
Wow.
It's going to take some of the pressure off whoever the quarterback is because the defense is going to be so locked down solid.
You mentioned quarterback. I know there's a quarterback battle. I don't want to get into it. But
yeah, you do.
Let's just talk pros and cons. And I'm going to keep it general here. I'm not going to even say names. Quarterback A, quarterback B. There's pros and cons of having a quarterback battle. There's iron sharpens iron. Competition is high. It makes everybody work that much harder. The only cons are really there's an unknown leader. And football is one of the few sports where you do need somebody that has to take the keys to the boat and drive that thing. How do you think Coach Tedford, who in my experience has been through quarterback battles, people forget when Marcus McMarion, one of my good buddies, who won us Mountain West championships and bowl games, came in, Chase and Virgil was a starting quarterback who he needed to take the reins from. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't you're transferred in from Oregon State, you're a Dinuba guy who did really well in high school, here you go. I know you remember this, Paul. He didn't start right away. Matter of fact, I think Coach Tedford held him back a little bit longer than he wanted to. The world will never know. Obviously, it all worked out. But there was a battle, and it happened, and I think it made everybody else understand the level of competition of there are no handouts. You need to earn your role. And right now, the guys battling for the quarterback position, nobody's folding. No one's rolling over necessarily, it seems like. What do you think, at this point in the year, is it still good to have a quarterback battle, or should we decide soon?
Well, Coach Tedford knows that so much better than I do. But the old yarn we've always heard is, if you have two quarterbacks, you don't really have one. So that's the danger,
I've never heard
right?
That
that's
yarn
the
before.
concern. That's what people are afraid of. That if it's not settled yet, does that mean nobody's good enough to be the one?
Sure.
And I think time will tell, but I think there's a chance you have two guys who want it badly enough that they're not letting the other guy surge in front. And here's another little piece of the equation. You've got a third guy in the mix who's a true freshman who's doing everything he needs to do to make this a competition, and he's pushing those guys even harder.
Right.
So I think after the scrimmage this weekend, I'm guessing the team's going to have a pretty solid idea, but we may not hear until, the week of the Purdue game or even the morning of the Purdue game. I don't know.
So who walks out there first?
Well, that's what we're going to find out, right?
I
I think you can make a case for all of them. And I do think if Joshua Wood hadn't injured himself in the spring, he'd be a part of that equation too. There's some really talented young men, but you played for Coach Tedford. You know what his priorities are. Does he care who has the biggest arm or the fastest legs or the measurables? Not so much.
No.
It's right up here. It's how does he read pre-snap adjustments? How does he, have his progression in the play, make that decision, then deliver the football accurately, not take chances he shouldn't take.
Trust, all that stuff.
Trust. You just said the magic word. Yeah. That is number one on Coach Tedford's list.
Do
Who
we
does
trust
he
you
trust?
enough to give you the keys to the boat and let you drive?
Yeah.
I
Right?
know. It's tough, especially at the quarterback position.
There's a lot of value there, right?
I get it. Believe me. All the games this year. What's our toughest game, you think? Because there's a lot of atmospheres. We're going into Big Ten territory, but guess what? They got a new coaching staff, new quarterback situation. Yeah, they lost the Big Ten last year. That was very competitive. It's also game one. Anything can happen in college football, which makes it so great. Boise's coming back. All they're getting is hyped right now. Good. I would love for them to come back and we knock them out in our house. Wyoming, we might see some weather at this year. Don't know how many guys have been in that.
Few of them last year.
What do you got
the
for me,
year
Paul?
before. I remember so many situations like this where it would be Pat Hill sitting in front of this microphone and someone would talk about what a big game is. He's like, you're right, it's the biggest game of the week. And Coach Tedford has that same mentality.
Right.
I mean, every coach says they treat it the same, but he really does. And what happens if you do that Every game has a little bit more riding on it. But I'll tell you a game that not a lot of people are zeroing in on that I think will be significant, and part of it's just history, because we know Purdue's going to be huge, right? The trip to Arizona State, obviously that can turn some heads. Season finale at San Diego State in the new stadium. I know my man Chris here is going to be there headbanging away. There's going to be some big games that are obvious. San Jose State.
Yeah.
At San Jose State on Veterans Day, November 11th. They've got an experienced quarterback who's the preseason Offensive Player of the Year. So many of Fresno State's big promising seasons, the Spartans end up with a chance to play spoiler. Last year, Fresno State changed its season by beating San Jose State here in a really good game. So that's one that I think maybe not everybody zeroed in on, but that week there's going to be a lot riding on it, and there's going to be some intensity when those two teams line up.
Well, we obviously don't like San Jose State very much. They really don't like us either very much. I've brought this up on Bring the Juice many times. We played for the Valley Trophy, which last night I was telling a nice old couple. They were taking pictures next to the trophy. I said, hey, you would never guess it. That Valley Trophy is so heavy compared, because they were like, oh, the oil can, I wonder if it's full. And I was like, hey, I've held both these. That Valley Trophy, what do you think of that Valley Trophy? You've picked it up before. Probably, what, 80 pounds, 60 pounds?
You think it's that much?
I would love to take I'm not a sports betting podcast necessarily. If I had to put an over-under, I would say 47, and I would take the over.
Well, it'd be a fun game show. What's heavier, that or the oil can, depending on what you put in the oil can?
Well, right now it's empty, Paul. So we'll see.
Are you sure?
It was in 2018 when we had it, so I don't know.
It'd be cool to see, one of these guys put on the LA Bowl belt and have the Mountain West trophy in one hand and the oil can in the other, and you could just strap the V on their back, right? They could just walk around with all the trophies.
Might have to be something like that. Paul, I want to give you a quick little opportunity to talk about your last thing.
Okay.
Veterans Day game in November against San Jose. You personally are very passionate about our military. You got a show about it. You got your own wave with it. Can you explain to the people what you do?
Boy, I guess it's fitting I'm wearing this T-shirt that says, remember June 6th. I started interviewing World War II guys 20 years ago on TV, mostly inspired by my grandpa who was in World War II, got a Silver Star for saving 26 guys out of burning tanks. And I started seeing what it... Hey, thanks.
Hey, cheers to him
Yeah,
real
he was
quick.
a stud. But, I call my show Hometown Heroes because the idea is you could go to LA or New York, some big city, or you could go to Reedley or Parlier, or I just went to Bridgeport, California, population 553, and there's a guy there who's got the craziest World War II story I've ever heard. I haven't put it on the radio yet, but I'm going to. But the idea is no matter where you go, there are these people, maybe you've known them your whole life, but they have a story that will blow your mind if you actually sit down and take the time to ask them. So when we do that, for me, it broadens my perspective. It helps me see my problems as a lot more small than they feel. And I think it inspires us. If these people who've gone before us can overcome what they had to overcome for our freedom, so we would have the chance to talk about football and all this stuff, what are we going to do about it?
Right.
How are we going to live up to that price that's been paid for our freedom? And our Valley loves our vets so much. Central Valley Honor Flight's been going 10 years now. Almost 1,700 veterans have gone to see their memorials for free. I want to get your granddad signed up one of these days so we can take them. And so if folks are, fired up about that, September 13th will be the next chance to come to the airport and welcome home about 70 vets, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, and then we'll do it again October 18th. And I think that one in September, that's the week of the Arizona State game. We're going to do our Bulldog football show out there at the airport, have some players, talk some football. We'd love to have you out there. Bring all your...
Let me know, Paul.
Your entourage. Bring some juice to the airport. Let's go.
Ladies and gentlemen, Paul Leffer, the voice of the Bulldogs. Check him out. Paul, I appreciate you. Oh, yeah. Paul, go Dogs. Bring the juice, baby.
All right.
We'll be back in 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Get yourself another Coors Light. Grab a juice hat. Check out DERVO'S Deli. I recommend the Game Changer. They're delicious. It's a game changer. We'll be right back. All right, y'all. Probably last interview of the evening. Please capitalize on these crispy, cold $1 Coors Lights and this DERVO'S Deli. The juice is being brought. The hats are over there. They look great. They look delicious. Wear them to your first day of school next week. On today with a a special Fresno State Bulldog, Chris Healy. Me and Chris met each other 27 minutes ago, and now he's on Bring the Juice. How about that, the way life works? Check it out. Chris, let's talk about this to start off. You're a passionate Dogs fan. Tell me why, the history, the origins of this.
I am a huge, possibly obsessive Dogs fan.
Oh.
Very much football. I love, obviously football is like the cornerstone,
It's
of course,
alpha.
of my
It's alpha.
obsession. But I love all the athletic teams. I try to go out to any of the games. Went and checked out the little preseason UCLA versus Fresno State ladies soccer last
that?
week. That was kick-ass.
Yeah.
I was extremely impressed by the performance of the UCLA. I mean, our Dogs battled out there, and they played, and they really showed a lot of grit. But the skill of the UCLA, they're number one ranked in the country.
The one in the country.
I was impressed. I was blown. I was like, wow, this is really serious. And I don't even know soccer. That's the
Yeah.
first soccer game I've ever been to in my life.
You not even like a youth.
Maybe when I
Soccer.
was 5 years old, my own game, bunch ball.
Yeah.
Anyway, huge Dogs fan for many reasons, but I think if there's a common thread, it's the underdog story. Me coming here for college, it was kind of an underdog move, and everyone loves an underdog story.
Hell yeah.
But Fresno State is the perennial, the classic, the underdog.
Right.
And it's kind of like the haves and the haves not. You know, we play against USC and UCLA and some of these huge schools, and he was talking about the mid-majors versus the high-ranking, and we're just the classic mid-major.
Right.
And everything we get, we have to work for a little bit harder. We don't have the funding in the programs. We don't have the facilities. We don't have the scholarship opportunities to give to our student athletes. We are the whole system is set up to really favor the big guys, and we are the little guys. And yet we have fight and we have pride in the Valley.
Yeah.
And from an athletic standpoint, and also from just a cultural, economic standpoint, people always say, oh, yeah, Fresno. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, I fucking love Fresno.
559, baby.
I
Fuck
rep
yeah.
it hard.
Good.
And anything we do and any light that we get shined upon us, we always try to push it onto Fresno and Fresno State. And that's
I love
where
that.
we cut our teeth, and that's where things happened. And, there's a lot of other things that I love too, like Coach T, for example, the way that he speaks to the players, the way that he treats the players.
Coach T is a nickname for Coach Tedford?
Yes.
Okay.
Coach T is going to have him ready, baby.
We call him Teddy.
Teddy, our guy.
Old
Love
son.
him.
Hey, Teddy's a little pissed right now.
Great coach. Pat Hill, Jim Sweeney. We have a very rich
culture.
history
It's a
and
culture.
heritage for the little guys. And we are always the little guys. And until at least recently, we've always been the team that almost wins the big game. That was our thing for decades there. I could
Right.
recall almost every catastrophic loss that we've had and win as well. But just a huge Dogs fan.
But we've been getting the job done.
Dude, last year was a classic. We win one. We go 1-4. We're on the doormat. Everyone thinks we're cooked for the year. And you guys were talking about earlier with the voice of the Bulldogs, Paul Leffler.
Yeah.
Came back, beat San Jose State 17-10. And then we had the San Jose State game. San Diego State.
Yeah.
Miraculous comeback, which Paul said, if we don't win that game, we don't win the Mountain West. It's like
True.
the season's almost over from a standpoint of winning something meaningful. We'd have been out of the conference. We'd been out of the mix. And yet we came back and had arguably one of the great Fresno State football seasons. And it was just glorious. It was glorious. So I'm borderline obsessive Dogs fan. And I couldn't love Fresno State more.
Chris, you're more than just a Dogs fan, though. You got a lot going on. How long have you been growing out your hair? Let's start with that.
It's a long story, but I'll give you the quick one.
Give me the it's a really high building, but the elevator pitch.
Yeah. I went to Fresno State, had an extraordinary experience here. Went off and got a great job after college that I worked in for about 7 years. Was always clean cut, high and tight, business professional, Chris Healy.
Classic white guy. Just
Dude,
boom.
got the shit, spiky hair, everything.
That one right there.
Yeah, dude, I was that for 30 years. And I turned 30, and I left my job. I left the country. I did a trip around the world for 11 months.
Whoa.
Went to 30 countries solo with just a backpack. Just was out there. And I always had this belief that I was going to do something extraordinary. And that trip was like the catalyst. Well, that was like the extraordinary thing, but that led to me growing my hair long, which I had never done before.
Right.
And that led into our future business that we have founded. Long story later on, but that's kind of how it shook out.
What's the business?
The business is the long hairs.
The long hairs.
Yes.
Okay.
We make hair ties for guys.
Good.
They work for girls too.
Good.
Finest hair ties in the world.
What makes them better than the normal hair tie?
Well, they hold the hair snugly without ripping, pulling, creasing, tugging, breaking, or otherwise mutilating your hair. They're weight tested for over 100 pounds.
100 pounds?
And they just have these dope designs that you will not find in the women's hair care aisle. Not like I'm trying to get into the business
No,
here,
please,
but this
please.
gives you...
Can we get a zoom in right
here's
there?
just a couple of our cool collections.
Yeah. Do you have a Fresno State one yet?
No, though we have a full blue collection and a full red collection.
Okay. It would work.
So we will do for this show a coupon, a discount code for anyone who's listening to Bring the Juice podcast.
Code Bring the Juice.
The code is Bring the Juice. And we'll do 25% off any order for anyone who's listening.
I might grow my hair back out just so I have an excuse to buy these and have a discount on my hair ties.
You're a handsome guy with long hair. I mean, come on, let's bring it back, dude.
My wife back there, we raise your hand real quick, sweetie. Oh, there we go, baby. She fell in love with me with the lettuce, the lettuccino.
I'm surprised she let you cut it.
Different era of my athletic career, I actually was getting it caught in a bobsled to where I had to.
The skeleton.
Yeah, it was flowing. It was fucking on my aerodynamicness and.
Yes. Well, now that that's behind
every
you,
second
you're
counts.
no longer
I
pursuing
wanna bring
the
it back.
2026 Olympics.
I kind of want to bring it back. I'm married. I'm 26 now. I enjoy crispy Coors Lights and DERVO'S Delis on my Friday afternoons. I like to bring the juice. I get my piss hot and fired up talking about Fresno State. I'm a 5'9" guy. Why not bring it back? The lettuce. I want a little dirtiness in the back.
The classic barriers.
I got some flow too. I get the little turtle curl back here.
Some of the classic barriers are your employment. You don't have to worry about that.
Farm boy.
Your relationship situation. You're already married, so you could get through the awkward stage without too much
She
trouble.
fell in love with me when I did have my long hair
So
too.
I don't see a lot of barriers here.
I don't see any.
And you can wear it as a wristband from now until then. Here, your wife is gonna steal these from you, but at least you
I appreciate that.
Hold on to a couple right there.
So this business that came about, how did it come? Okay, so you started growing your hair out. You said, hey, hair ties aren't working for me. There has to be a better way, or what?
The hair ties suck. They snap, they catch your hair, they rip your hair out, they get caught in there, it gives you tangles. Like, the hair ties experience sucks, and especially for a guy who's grown his hair out for the first time when he's in his 30s, what do? I don't know. How do I tie my hair up? I'm going to go to the Walgreens or the
I did the same
Target,
thing.
and I'm going to go see what the hair ties section. I'm going to go to the women's hair care aisle, and I'm going to look at a bunch of hair ties. I'm going to try to find the most basic, black, non-frilly, whatever, and then I buy them, and they suck.
Yeah.
For all those reasons that I already said. And we're like, so we were a marketing agency. This is my business partner. He's another Fresno State alum.
Go Dogs.
Big Dogs fan.
Go
Not
Dogs.
as big a Dogs fan as me, but big Dogs fan. And we were doing a marketing agency, building websites for clients and doing their digital marketing, everything. But we were trying to find our own thing.
Yeah.
And we were growing the hair out. I had just come off this trip around the world. And one day we were driving back and we're like, dude, it's hair ties for guys.
Really?
This is it.
Yeah.
We're going to do this.
Was it an epiphany moment?
It was an epiphany moment.
Right. Write this down type
Yes,
thing?
it was.
Yeah.
And literally that night, I wrote on a cocktail napkin the script for
You still
our
have that
first.
cocktail napkin?
I absolutely do.
God,
and we
I
have
love
the video that became
I love
the
that.
commercial that was the first thing, and we didn't even have the freaking hair ties yet.
Good.
So
That's how Phil Knight started Nike. Didn't even have shoes.
Very much. No,
Sold
we
them
didn't
in
have
Japan.
shit.
Good.
we had nothing except an idea and our hair, and we're like, dude, this is a thing because guys with long hair know something that other guys don't know. Like they've gone through the awkward stage.
Yep.
They've experienced
The awkward
this,
stage
they've
is
been through-
really tough.
And they are not an accountant. They're not an NBA referee. They're not an astronaut. You know some things about them. They're certainly not X, Y, or Z. They've been through the same thing. So long hair makes us a community. And long, way beyond the actual hair ties is about the community. Guys with long hair. Like, we got something.
Right. I know what your struggles are, kind of.
Yeah.
So it goes from, all right, an idea to you get some momentum right away.
We made a promise to each other that we would publish original content, a blog post, every single week for the rest of eternity.
Okay.
And that was 493 weeks ago.
And you still go it.
Every single week. We
Yeah.
never miss. How to tie your hair, how to braid your hair, how to brush your hair, should you brush your hair, how to wash your hair. Now, in addition to the hair ties, we have a complete collection of apex level hair care for guys who care about their hair.
So instead of me going to CVS and trying to buy some shit where I'm like, I don't know what's gonna happen here. Is this Tresemme? Is this like, something that keeps the knots out for little kids? Oh, I'm gonna buy your stuff instead because I don't know. I watched the hair commercials in between YouTube ads and
So
stuff
did
like
I,
that.
and I bought the herbal
But
essence.
now there's something to do for long hair. I don't gotta smell like a woman. I could just have the nice hair. I love the smell of a woman.
You don't necessarily want to smell like a
I don't
woman.
want to smell like. I want to smell clean.
But you love the smell
Don't
of
wanna
the
smell
woman.
like shit.
Yes,
Duke
absolutely.
Cannon, for instance, love Duke Cannon. Wash myself with Duke Cannon. Some of their smells a little leathery, little masculinity, little musk. I'm good with that. I don't need my hair smelling like cherries necessarily.
Absolutely. So
I
we've
love
gone
cherries.
with like the most high quality. We really did our research and dug in and all this stuff. And I don't want to get too much in the business. We're talking dogs here, baby.
Dogs, baby.
But we have we will stand by our claim. We have a hair care line that'll go toe to toe with any of the top salon hair care brands anywhere. But we've got a little more masculine edge to it. We've got these beautiful aluminum bottles, they reminiscent of Coors Light cans. Yeah, this
Coors
is
Light.
kind of similar to the Silver Bullet, and yeah, we've just built this brand. It's been this December. It'll be 9 years since we actually launched.
Wow.
And it is our livelihood. We were really fortunate to get featured by Mr. Eddie Hughes. Wrote a stellar article in Fresno State Magazine about the long hairs.
Okay.
Shortly after we appeared on Shark Tank.
I was going to ask you that. How was that experience? I talked to Damon at the American Pistachio Growers Conference. If you want to perform like the pros, eat your pistachios, eat those nuts, kids. But Damon John was at the APG conference. I got to talk to him for a little bit. He's not that tall of a dude, but he's got a lot of power to him.
He does, absolutely.
Yeah. That experience had to have been...
He was staring us down, man. He was the guy out of anyone when we first walked out who was looking at us like, who the fuck are these guys? But... Just short story.
Yeah.
We put wigs on all the male sharks.
Yeah.
So they all had long hair on the TV. We had some dope locks for Damon. We had Mr. Wonderful. We had Mark. Lori, of course, were like, you already have the best hair in the room.
Right,
so
right,
nobody
right.
has to
Had to
do
hype
worry
her up.
about that. And then
Yeah.
Robert also. Mark's wig was like reddish kind of when we bought it because we're like, this is it. So the night before, we dyed the hair black so it looked more like his hair color because it's the only wig we could get, like the night before.
You Amazoned it almost?
Yeah,
or what?
yeah. And then we're in the show and the bullets are flying, dude. It's hot. And Mark all of a sudden is going like this and he has like,
It was
stuff
running?
on his face. And the dye from the hair got all over his hands and face and his suit and everything. This is on the show. You'll see it on the show. And my face is like purely mortified.
Like, he's out.
But he was a really good sport. Someone brought him a wet towel. He came up, washed his face off, and still got a deal with the Marcolodon. So it wasn't that big of a deal, obviously.
Wow.
We pulled it off.
So, all that being said, you're on this journey, yet the dogs are such a critical part of your life.
Dude, huge. Absolutely huge.
Would you ever do a collab? Is the dream to have some sort of collab with the dogs at some point?
Yeah, absolutely. And it may not be like the perfect fit. And there's like all the licensing questions and things. And at the end of the day, like, what is it going to do for our business?
Sure. What about like a player? What if he had long hair?
Well, look, I've already been sending the players
an NIL deal type thing.
We're totally into that. I've
Right.
already sent Lavelle. Just got some.
Interviewed him 2 weeks
some
ago.
gear. Yeah, I know. I was watching the interview.
Great dude.
We just got him some head wraps and some hair ties and some cool stuff. I'm talking to the few of the other players, so it might not be like some blockbuster deal or something, but we would just love to send them some dope shit that they can rock and.
Well,
You know,
like you said
we
earlier,
don't need to
though.
get anything out of it
We're
necessarily.
the underdogs.
We are the underdogs.
Listen, don't come to Fresno State if you want $1 million deal. Not the place. You want some dope shit, maybe a free sandwich at DERVO'S Deli every once in a while, some Coors Lights. Maybe
Man.
you want some hair ties, some swag, get featured on an Instagram story that was invested in by Shark Tank. Then yeah, guess what? We're the place for you.
Yeah.
We're greedy. We don't want those big deals.
No.
Maybe a couple $100 here and there, some beer money. Fuck yeah, we want some of that shit. Other
Yeah.
than that, none of it. None of it. We like adversity. When adversity strikes, we say good. Good.
Bring it
Look
on.
it in the eye, attack it. Overcoming it is the way we like to be.
No doubt.
So if you had to change, Chris, I have this question circled on my little notebook here for the last 5 hours. I've talked about conference realignment. I've talked about all that. You've been to a lot of stadiums. Bulldog Stadium, a.k.a. Valley Children's Stadium. If you had to change one thing about that stadium right now, what would be the one thing you change?
All right, dude, I've been listening to all this stuff here about the conference realignment and everything. If I had to do it, this is what needs to happen. The first thing is that we need to improve the facilities for the visiting team executives so that they are going to have a reasonable experience to come to a Power
Not
5
the
type
team.
of a thing.
The ADs that
I want
travel.
the team to have a good locker room and good facilities
Oh,
as
really?
well. The opposing team.
Okay.
Not within reason.
Oh.
But we need to meet the expectation of the Power 5 conference team of when they're going to come.
Sure.
Because otherwise they don't want to come. They're
Yeah.
going to come and they're going to be in, I don't know what the facility looks like, but I know it's kind of
dog shit.
under, yeah, I was going to say like an under,
No.
underwhelming.
But part of it's
But if
on
we want to have
purpose.
Oklahoma coming here, we have to put their AD and their president and their people in a nice, a reasonable spot. Of course, I want the upgrades for the fans and all this stuff and the fan experience.
So if you had
but
to change
if we
one
want
thing-
to be in a Power 5 conference, we need to reflect that to the opposing team. They're already going to come and get beat embarrassingly in a game that they're favored by 10 points. So we don't need to make them sit on a bench,
I
and
think we do.
substandard. Well, I know,
I think
but
we do. I think we give them pain and
From what-
punishment and miserable, and I want them to leave it going, yeah, those guys are assholes.
okay, fine, but then they're not going to come back again. But we want these teams to
Oh, they'll
come
come
and
back.
play us in the Valley.
All BS
UCLA will never come here.
You don't
USC will never come to Bulldog Stadium, Valley Christian Stadium. They're not going to come to the Valley. They're too far above us. That's too far. We're not going to Fresno. No, so we got to go down there and we got to beat you.
Wax that ass.
And then see, and the USC game last year, I was there, obviously.
Oh, and a
we
lot of
had
shit
tough-
went on. We don't gotta talk
A lot
about
of shit
it.
going on, dude. We got beer poured on us by fans after the game. Like, we were just
Assholes.
walking in silence. So I have no love. The history and the heritage of the Pac-12 or the Pac-10, it's sad what is happening, but we were never good enough to be in the Pac-12. We were on the excommunique list. You're not bringing Fresno State, the academics, the
Academics?
They
This is
would
the Harvard of
never
the
let
Central
us in.
Valley.
They
This is
would
the
never
Harvard
let
of
us
the Central
in.
Valley.
Now their conference is gone,
Yeah.
and they're going to be knocking on the door saying, "Can we get into the Mountain West?"
Yeah. Who do you know here? That's what I'm saying.
They didn't want any part of it. So whether we end up getting into a Power 5 conference or not, we are in a good conference right now in the Mountain West. There's some sub-performing teams, but it's arguably the strongest group of 5 conference. And I do think it's a strong conference for what it is, for who we are, for mid-majors. So we're never going to get – the haves and haves not are going to continue to get wider and wider apart. Look at what's happening. All these super conferences, the SEC and the Big 12 and the Big 10, they're trying to go to 20 conferences. They're trying to make another division to keep all the little guys down here. Unless you have a prolific undefeated season and you beat ranked teams, you're not going to get into the upper echelon. So whatever happens to us, what we got to do is just play with pride and be dogs and win our games. And, yes, I do hope that we are in a power conference eventually, but whatever the case may be, I just hope we go out and play Bulldog football.
Chris, final question. I don't want to hear some BS right now. What do you truly think the Dogs' record will be at the end of the year? Total truthness.
I heard you. Well, every year I think we're going to go 13-0, but realistic expectations.
Why not 14-0?
I heard you ask Paul earlier, no, it wasn't Paul, it was the previous guest. And I will say 2 losses, realistically, in the regular season. It gives us a berth to a championship game and then a bowl game. So I will go, what would that be, 12-2?
12-2. Best record on Fresno State history, 12-2.
In the 2018 Marcus McMarion led. I was watching every single minute of the snow coming down in Boise, and Ronnie Rivers punches it in to close it out. Dude, one of the great, moments. When we win, you guys were talking about the 2008 national championship. Probably will never happen again. I hate to say that. Never is a long time.
Probably not going to happen again.
But the way that the odds are stacked against teams like in our category, we're probably never going to get a chance again. We did it. We won it. No one can ever take that away from us.
Ever.
National champs. Will the football team ever have an opportunity? I mean, yeah. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. We are going to.
Hell yeah, brother. Hell yeah, brother. Chris Healy here. Check him out on the gram. Check him out at the dog games going ape shit with his hair and with his Bring the Juice hat on while sipping on Coors Lights and wearing his headbands. Hair ties.
Hair ties for guys.
Strictly hair ties, not headbands.
We have headbands too.
Chris Healy has products called hair ties for guys. Make sure to watch him wear them while he has the Bring the Juice hat on, supporting the dogs. And sipping Coors Lights. That's the proper term, right?
I'm not really sipping them. It's more like a half shotgun approach. But one last thing I do want to mention is you guys have a really nice logo, the Bring the Juice logo. If you were to have a Bring the Juice mascot,
yeah,
I am embodied in that mascot. With the hair whips and high fives, I am going to be at Bulldog Stadium throwing it down, bringing the juice.
Well, get your piss hot, boys and girls. We're out here at DERVO'S Deli. Enjoy it. Enjoy the dogs upcoming season. We're going to do this again real soon. Shout out to Justin, who is the owner of DERVO'S Deli. Enjoy some $1 Coors Lights. We close in 12 minutes. $1 Coors Lights. Get yourself some Bring the Juice swag. Say hi to everybody. Follow us on the gram. Follow Justin on the gram at DERVO'S Deli. And we'll see you next time.